Lurie, who's a radio host, podcaster, and best-selling author of a number of books that we have covered here with AFA. Atheism Kills, Atheism Destroys, Rise of the Sex Machines, always a favorite, and a new one coming out. We already had him slated to speak at our War on Children conference, but I really wanted him to talk about some aspects about the family, fathers, and boys and children. So he just flew in, like I said earlier, he flew in from Las Vegas to talk to us today. So please join me in welcoming Barak Lurie.
Hey everybody, what a pleasure. I can say as somebody who regularly gives speeches, among those of us who give speeches regularly, that last Thursday when Biden spoke, it created a new low standard above which we need to be, and that's fine by me. So it's going to be pretty easy. Look, I love this topic. I've written books about it. My latest book is Keeping the Kids All Right, which is really focused tremendously on the boy issue as well. I was fascinated by the boy issue a long time ago. In 2000, Christina Hoffman, she wrote, Hoff Summers, yes, there you go, thank you. She wrote a book called The War on Boys, and I was fascinated with it because I knew that I wanted to have children, and there was a 50-50 chance that I would have a boy. And there you go. So I got very into it, and 5 years later, I had a boy. And then in 2012, I had my second boy. In between, I had a girl. And I want to share some really interesting things about raising boys and how essential it is. And I really geared myself up about this, and this is why I wrote my book about kids. You can, in fact, have a masculine boy who loves America, who loves God, who wants to have a family of his own, respects ladies, all the good stuff. You can have that, but you just have to do it. You have to make sure that they learn it. It's no longer in the mother's milk. It's no longer in the DNA to have your boy become masculine because he's masculine, because he has a penis. That's not enough. You've got to encourage him. And he's being surrounded by culture that is very dangerous to boys. Okay, so I was fascinated when one day somebody said something to me that I realized was one of the best compliments I could ever receive. Was it, Barak, you're a great lawyer. You're really smart. Was it that? Right? For women, it might be, oh, you're really beautiful, okay? No, the compliment that I got was, you're very masculine, right? And women, I'm asking you now, isn't it one of the greatest compliments you can receive? You're very feminine, right? Women love that. We men like being masculine. And that is where I want to kind of begin off with. Now, what is masculinity? Why do we celebrate it? Why do we want it so badly? I'll tell you a story about my older son, Max. He's now 18. When he was 7, he went on a play date with one of his buddies from school. And he spent the whole day there, and then they came back and he said, Dad, Lee's family has a really big pool. Lee's family also has an indoor basketball court. Lee's family has a gigantic trampoline. I think they also had a bowling alley. And why can't we have that, Dad? This is one of the most terrifying questions a dad can get, right? So it was one of those rare moments in my adult life where I ended up feeling like I said just the right thing. Here's what I said. I said, Max, I can give you all those things. You can? I said, oh yeah, sure. I would have to work really hard to get it, and you probably wouldn't see me very much. But I can get you those things. So I said, what would you like? Do you want those things? Or do you want more of me, time-wise? And my stomach dropped, waiting for the answer. And he said, no, I want you here. I said, okay. And there was a nice understanding from then on. He really appreciated the time. And it was true that Lee's dad, I've changed the names to protect the innocent, Lee's dad, in fact, was not spending any time with his child. And Lee ended up being not such a great kid. So time is very important. That was a very great comment, that dad's time versus dad's dime, right? Let me tell you another story about my younger son, Alex, who is now 11. When he was when he was about 4 years old, actually, we get a call from the preschool. Mr. Lurie, we need to see you right now. Okay? This is in the middle of the day. And apparently they'd also called my wife and said, Mrs. Lurie, we need to see you right now. Can you tell me what this is about? My heart is like, no, we need to see you now. Okay, what's going on in your mind right now? Did my kid stab somebody? Did he write a manifesto or some kind at 4 years old? What happened that deserves me drawing me out of work and everything else? And I was in the middle of a very intense case at the time. So we go down there. I rush down there. My wife is down there, and we finally meet before the conference, and we both look at each other like, what the hell? And we go in, and then these two very young nursery teachers, there must have been 24, 26 or something like that, are just smiling and shaking hands. So thank you so much for coming down. Well, you told us to come down, so we're here. Anyway, so they start chit-chatting, and I said, can we just please get to the point? And my wife was supportive about that. That was great. And she said, okay. She's going to tell the story now. I am peeing in my pants, by the way, when I hear this. So she says, today we had some crayon drawings, and we asked the kids to pick up 3 crayons of different colors, of course, and they can start drawing. And we said, okay. And then they said, and Alex, he chose black, orange, and green. Okay. Are these offensive colors for a football team? I don't know. So, and then he started drawing. And I thought, that's where we're going, right? Some sort of gun, some sort of, Allahu Akbar thing going on. Or I don't know. So, and then he started drawing, whatever, it's like a dragon or a dinosaur. Okay, cool. And then we asked him, Alex, why did you choose those colors? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, and? Well, that's it. He didn't know. I said, you dragged me down here when I was fighting one of the biggest cases I've ever dealt with at X hundreds of dollars per hour. And my wife as well, just as busy, because he wasn't able to explain why he chose the colors he chose. Well, yeah, he should know that. And I said, you understand that Alex is a boy, right? Well, he should know. And I said, you really think that we give a crap about colors? It was fascinating to me, and I had a long discussion with them. I said, women think that colors, you know all different kinds of colors, right? Yeah. All right. Here's what the colors the boys know. Brown, blue, red, black, purple, We've heard of fuchsia and maybe turquoise. That's it. You have colors like autumn, and I don't know, these other colors you have, and they're so important to you. It's just not important to us. Here's another thing that's not important to us. Feelings. We don't have feelings. Not like you think, okay? We care about courage. We care about honor and shame. We care about achievement. Who's the fastest kid? Who's the slowest kid? Who's the strongest kid? Who's the smartest kid? But we don't have feelings, not like women do. And this is a big problem in the education system, was where that there's so much femininity going on, and they teach in the way that they understand the world, and that's okay. But they assume that boys have the same things. We don't. Anyway, I found it fascinating because it expressed the difference between men and women. Look, somewhere along the line, in the past 20 years or so, there's been this agenda now to go with this hatred of men. And maybe even before then. I do know, I see it now in the colleges and everything else. You ever see that commercial with some sort of insurance, life insurance commercial? And it's a black couple, it doesn't matter that's black, but just easy to identify the commercial. And the woman is asking the man, John, do you get the life insurance commercial, for that we're planning for? And he's pausing, and he looks really stupid. And he says, no, John, come on. And all of a sudden, it's all about how stupid John is and such, and how bright the woman is. And like, well, why don't you just get the life insurance then, lady? That's what you want to say. But he's just so stupid. And that's so typical of the Homer Simpson phenomenon, right? And it's in so many different cultures as well. In commercials, there's just hardly a situation where the man is brighter than the wife. Hardly. If he's bright, he's neurotic, like in Modern Family, the Phil Dunphy character. And that the worst they'll ever do with a woman is that she's neurotic. Marge Simpson is neurotic, right? She obsesses too much, but that's the worst. She's brilliant, though. The women are always brilliant. Now, why is this happening? There's a lot of discussion about what is, but we want to know why. Somewhere along the line, and in some 20 or 30 years ago, people were discussing this idea of eviscerating the difference between men and women. You had the gay marriage thing, and that was part of it. But somebody pressed that button on the transgenderism thing. And it's very tied to masculinity. This is very, very tied to it. They said, let's do it now. It was a calculated decision. The seeds were sown. It was just the right moment. Let's talk about transgenderism right now. A man could be a woman could be a man. It's going to be great. And why is it? You'd think the way they talk about transgenderism, that 1 out of every 3 people is transgender, right? You would. I mean, and we've got to change our pronouns. We literally have to change our language, literally. By the way, English is, the most ripe language for that because you don't have so many different differentiations for male and female. Try that with Hebrew. Good luck. So not only do you have male and female, you have there's 2 U's. So there's at and ata, male and female. So you got to be really careful. And not only that, but the conjugation of verbs is also male and female. So there's no way you can get away with it. You could talk to a transgender person and say you and feel safe, right? Not so in Hebrew, not so in many other languages. Anyway, why is it that we're focusing on them? Why are we tossing and turning our world upside down for them? Well, because they've been suffering, Barak. We need to respect them. Okay. Can we compare other people? Okay. Colorblind people. Anybody here colorblind? Okay. Well, it's about 7% of men are colorblind, and 0.4% of women. It's not a pretty picture. If you're colorblind, really bad things happen. It's not just the traffic lights. It's actually able to read social cues. There's very, very important things, many manifestations of it. Do we change our entire world around the colorblind? There are a hell of a lot more of them than there are of transgenders. But I don't want to get ahead of myself on that one. Legally blind, 0.03% of the population. That translates to 1.3 million legally blind people. Do we force everyone to write in Braille? Right? People who have, let's see, Tourette's syndrome, 350,000 to 450,000 people. Gypsies, 1 million people. Left-handed people, who's left-handed here? Okay, about 10% of the population is left-handed. Writing sucks for a left-handed person. Cutting with scissors and such. Do we change our entire culture around left-handed people? Or offer them, hey, you want to write from right to left? Please be my guest. Right? No, you're just going to have to suffer. Sorry. But we don't change our entire world around them. Dwarfs or little people. There are more dwarfs or little people, as it's the polite phrase now, than there are transgender people. Jews, of which I am a member. We are 2.4% of the American population, and of the world population, we are 0.02%. Christmas, anyone? Right? I love being in a Christian country, but I don't expect the whole world to just stop everything about their Christianity. I understand I'm a Jew in a Christian country. I'm very happy with that. But the whole world doesn't turn around me. And there are a lot more Jews than there are transgender people. Likewise, Native Americans are 0.7% of the population, and I understand that they've been through a lot. Let's see, what else? Now, trans folks. Anyone want to take a guess of what the percentage of the world's population of transgendered folks are? Who said 007? I like that. It's 0.005% of the world. That's according to the latest vaunted DSM-5. Now, I did the calculations, and taking the average of the estimates, it totals to a total of 26,400 individuals in America. That's it, with true gender dysphoria. And we're all tripping all over ourselves about this. He, she, and then the thing I can't stand is when they're talking about somebody and then they use their. My mind cannot connect with that. Putting aside the lie that you have to live with. Okay, so why is it that we do this? Why do they get all the attention and everyone else that I said, blind people, deaf people, Tourette's syndrome, gypsies for that matter, Eskimos, there are more Eskimos than there are, a lot more Eskimos than there are transgendered folks. So why? The answer is, none of those other things I said, none of them have to do with the pillars of civilization. Okay? The male-female distinction is the loading bearing wall of civilization. You dismantle that, the whole thing collapses. That's why the focus is there. Now, that relates, of course, to the boy issue. Because we don't celebrate boys. Because by celebrating boys, we're celebrating the distinction between boys and girls. That's a big no-no. You can't do that. Now, how do we get around this? Because we now live in a time where we have to explain everything all over again, right? Why marriage is a good thing. Why having children is a good thing. Why we shouldn't treat sex so cavalierly. Why borders are important. Why courage and patriotism are key to civilization. And now we have to explain why men are important. And you say to yourself, really? You really have to explain this? I always feel like we're going backwards instead of progressing with real, like, how do we get closer to God? How do we go to the moon again? How do we go to the Mars again? Now we're just twiddling with these nonsensical things. Please explain why we need oxygen. What? It's nonsense. So we need the distinction between men and women because that is the very source of civilization, of our existence. It's what God wants us to recognize. It's one of the first things that God says in Genesis. And it's not just because God is cool and God knows everything. It's reality. It's biological reality for one thing, but it also propels us forward as civilization. Dr. Farrell brought up a great point about this purposelessness. I love that word because that's you see a lot in boys. Not my boys. My boys are full of purpose. And the purpose that they have, well, what do you think I tell them? Be men is nice, but I don't say that. I say to them, behind my wife's back, I say, your job is to protect mommy. Yeah? And they beam with such pride, yes, I will do that. That is their mission, to protect. And they can't wait to have kids of their own, by the way. They cannot wait. So it's great. And I also teach them to have a lot of kids, which will be a good thing. I also teach the boys about how awesome it is to be a boy. And part of being awesome is describing what boys like. So I say to them, Max, what do boys like? Tell me. And he says, dirt. I like to blow things up. I like to build them again and then blow them up again. And I like to run. And I said, yeah, I think that makes sense. By the way, I have my own conversations with my daughter about what girls like, and she's very proud of that too, so don't worry. But I want them to be very proud about being a boy. And part of that pride is being able to distinguish himself from a girl, right? And that's why I encourage them to think that girls are icky. They are, right? And very often, when the girls will say something, my daughter or my wife will go away, and I'll turn to the boys and say, girls, am I right? Right? And they love it. They love it, and I love it, and it enhances their sense of love of who they are. They're very proud to be a boy. They feel, in their mind for now, that it's better to be a boy. That's okay. Don't worry, the nuance will come later. They'll appreciate that girls are awesome too. And likewise for the girls appreciating the boys. But you have to talk to them, and you have to talk to them really early. This is the essence of my book. And I have some, by the way, later on. I'm just taking donations, basically, for the book. But it's such an important book. And a lot of people are getting back to me and saying, look, this has really changed the way I talk to my boys, especially. And I'm very grateful for that. There's no reason why you as a parent can't teach your boys to be boys, and for that matter, to worry. There's no reason for you to worry that somehow if he goes to this or that college, he'll start hating you or become feminine or anything else like that. There's no reason for that, so long as you get to them early, like super early. When I say early, I mean the age when your boy gets really excited when the garbage truck is going by in the street. That's how early, okay? And you'll have a lot of fun in the process. Every time we saw an American flag, we would, in front of a house, we would say, that house must be awesome. Those guys are awesome. And we talked about Trump, and we talked about America and how great it is, and how great God is in their lives. They appreciate these things. If you do this, you'll never have to worry about them. And that's why I said keeping the kids all right. Okay, yes, it's a double entendre. But it's really about making sure that you don't have to worry about them. I'm not worried for a moment that my kids, and I'm saying this with a little bit of risk, right? I mean, my oldest boy is 18, my girl is 15, my youngest one is now 11. Could they change me? No, they're not going to. All right? And my boy is, he just got into Texas A&M, so I'm very excited about that. But he's also waiting on Stanford. Okay? Now, you may worry about that. Now, because I went to Stanford, okay, and it was very liberal at the time, but I was very, rock solid in my conservatism, even going through that. And he's even more rock solid. So there's a way. That's why it's so important to just remember this. Always think ahead of what you need in your kid. It's your obligation as a parent, both mother and father, to imbue these ideas, because the default is against you. But you have the advantage of time. You're there first. Don't forget that. And your kids want to please you. And they also want to love their country. And they know that there's a God. Every kid has that sense. So play into that. Play into it. And be strong. And I have a whole bunch of dialogues that are easy to do. A couple of other thoughts I want to do before I wrap up. We need men. And yes, we need women. But you can't really be, women I'm talking to, you can't really be feminine without men. A lot who basically enable you to be feminine. And I'll say the reverse too, but that's because we have this innate need to protect. We're like dogs that way, right? And you make us masculine by your femininity. We want to protect you. But women can't be women in the way we're thinking without the men who make it safe to be women. By the way, that's not my line. It's from Tammy Bruce, who I really admire. A lesbian woman, no less, but she's right. She's spot on. You can't handle a lot of these things where, what about changing a tire, building a house, building that furniture? It's not typical for a woman to do that. When danger lurks, when there's a war out there, you expect the men to take care of these things, and rightfully so. Anyway, I think we've entered into this age of taking everything for granted. Houses and roads somehow build themselves. Cars repair themselves. The world is that you can live your entire life now without using a hammer or using a shovel to dig a hole. And so you think that these things all create themselves. And for now, you're not in imminent danger of a foreign invasion. You can get the impression that you really don't need men. And that's the impression that they're trying to leave you. But that's because men have already built the world. Right? One last thing you'll hear is this mantra that women shouldn't have to seek out a man to protect her from other men. And somehow she views that as very unfair. Well, that's the reality we live in. We do have to protect you from other men. Yeah. Every one of us here, and I'm speaking to every man here, Christian or Jew, when you saw what happened on October 7, with all the rapes, every one of us, all the men out there, we just thought, I'd love to go there and just to beat the crap out of these men. Yeah. Right? Good men versus bad men. So, listen, teach your children, especially your boys, how cool it is to be a boy. Laugh at the situation around you. Tell them to celebrate their boyness. That's what's missing. The celebration of boyness, the celebration of masculinity. Describing the problem, Dr. Farrell did a fantastic job of that. But what we do about it now is not only to encourage fatherness, but it's also to teach the boys really early on. You have to do it super duper early. You've got that, they respect themselves as boys, understand their obligations to not only be great men, but to be fathers and to be great husbands and to love God in the process. That's the only way it'll work. That's the coolness factor of it. All right? Thank you so much for letting me speak today.